Yo, Giga fam, a lot of you might not know this about me or you're new to the channel, but I'm actually a huge Diablo fan. I've off and on grinded the game for forever. I've been as high as top 20 on some leaderboards. Most of my content is like battle royale focused, but at night, maybe the wifey's reading, I've got my Steam Deck, I will play some Diablo, and I actually perfected something really fun and exciting, which I think a lot of you will enjoy, which is a zero ability, zero button minion necromancer build that's basically fully automated to play. So whether you're maybe disabled, you've got issues with your hands, or you're like me and you just like to kick it on a Steam Deck, barely have to press any buttons, have to pay attention. You don't have to violate terms of service by using a macro. The build itself is fully automated, which is no secret, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys my spin on it, as well as do something really cool, which is, to my knowledge, the world first Pit 100 clear without pressing any abilities. The rules for that was obviously I can use my interact button as well as my health potion. However, did not press any abilities. Like I said, the build is fully automated. Real quick before I get into just kind of explaining how the build runs, wanted to mention that I'm going to give away this obscenely cracked amulet. This thing is worth, I don't know, at least like 100 billion. You could probably get way more for it if you just want to sell it. Or what I would recommend doing is throw it in this really fun build. By the way, it also does 2 to 2.5 minute pit 75s, depending on how good your gear is. Granted, I have like insanely good gear. So you can easily use it for your XP farming, which I think would probably be the primary use for most people of like a really lazy build. And at the end, I will show off, that 2 to 3 minute speed farm run, as well as that world first Pit 100 using no abilities. Let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I mean, it's not that impressive. Obviously, I have really good gear. Other people know about different takes on lazy builds, but it was just kind of fun for me to try to perfect it. Let me know what you guys think about that. As far as how we'll run the giveaway for this insane amulet, just let me know down in the comments your best advice for further fine-tuning this build. And as like a password, include the name of the boss that I fight on the speed run and the name of the boss that I fight at the end of that world first Pit 100 zero ability run. Anybody that meets the requirements of the giveaway, I'll throw into a random pool. We'll pick somebody and I'll link up with you on Discord and give you your incredible amulet. Without further ado, let's get into the build. For the abilities on our hotbar, which we have to click exactly 0 of them, we basically just spam darkness abilities because we get extra damage multipliers in our skill tree for having darkness skills on the hotbar, as well as auto casting the raise, skeleton, and corpse explosion. The way we do that is via the sack ring, which automatically activates corpse explosions and raise skeletons, as well as raising that priest, which buffs the damage. Also have another legendary affix, which I think is underutilized on any minion build, let alone mine, where that's really important to do. And like I said, it's automated. You don't have to press anything. It is all done via the sack ring. For the GA on this, we want to just bring the lucky hit chance all the way to the top. I have an incredible sack ring. You don't have to have one this perfect. These actually aren't really that important. Just look for a relatively low legendary affix, maybe 1 to 1.2 seconds on the raised skeletons and corpse explosion auto casts, and you want a GA on lucky hit chance. For the mythics, we're looking for an Air of Perdition. Basically, you just want to do whatever you need to do with crit chance, whether it be between a GA or your masterworking, get your crit chance to 100%. Everything else goes into lucky hit chance. So for me, that worked out to be 2 crits on the lucky hit chance and 1 on the crit chance. For the runes on the pit pushing variant, I have found it's a lot more reliable to go with Nagu Cry to group up the enemies than to try to depend on the sack ring tendrils. Just way more consistent especially once you get up to like pit 100. For the speed farm variant, we're just going to throw in Spirit Wolves to proc the control glyph, which I'll show on the Paragon board. That's the only thing you have to switch out for the speed farm variant. On the topic of runes, super important that you have Ahu Quacks. This is going to get automatically casted by the sack ring. So whenever your sack ring is raising skeletons or bringing in that priest, that will proc the quacks, as well as having such a high lucky hit chance on the build. Whenever the target is non-healthy, we are building up quacks through Ahu. So it all synergizes really well and is all done for you automatically. For the Shroud of False Death, we're just looking for a GA to all stat, and then go ahead and mastercraft that all the way up. Hand of Nas, which turns our mages into archmages and just really makes the whole build come together. We're looking for a GA on Skeletal Mage Mastery, and then masterwork that all the way to the top. You're looking for at least like 95+% on the actual affix. For the pants, we need the Blood Moon Breeches, which basically just gives us access to a GA Hellbent Commander. Extremely important passive. And the extra crit damage to cursed enemies, which are going to be automatically applied through these pants. We don't have to do anything to get our enemies cursed, which gives us all the benefits of reducing the damage that they deal, as well as proccing this extra crit damage. More importantly than having all these GAs like I have would be getting this to 50%. Definitely need to at least have a GA on Hellbent Commander, and then may or may not need a GA on the crit chance to reach that critical 100% value. The boots, this is kind of my unique take, which I kind of discovered while I was trying to optimize this lazy build, but I actually think it's best in slot, at least for like consistency, on even like really cracked out, having to span a bunch of buttons, try hard builds. Like if you wanted to push into pit 105, 106, all the way to maybe even 110. And that is the Blood Getters. Your Skeletal Priest now also empower you at 75% effectiveness. While this would be outclassed by getting the extra mages, which I'll show in a second, what happens is we're able to move that one to the amulet, get even more mages, and then still recoup some of that damage from losing a different affix. You'll see that on this beautiful amulet that I have, where I've got the GA Hellbent Commander, and I was able to mastercraft that all the way to the top and enchant Gloom onto it. But you'll see I've got my maximum Skeletal Warriors and Skeletal Mages increased by 3, which gives me an extra 2 mages, right, through Hand of Nas, transforming my warriors and golems into mages. And what this also allows me to do, since on the skill tree we get extra attack speed for every minion, is that I am able to hit 100% attack speed without running it on any of my affixes, on any of my gear. I don't need any attack speed or to drink the potion, right? So that gives me extra damage, extra slots to do whatever I need to do with different roles. I don't have to run anything other than Paragon and the attack speed that I get from a GA to Hand of Nas. If you aren't able to hit that 100% threshold, you are going to have to roll it onto most likely your ring. Next up, we've got the two-handed scythe, mandatory for the summon damage. And the tempering on this is really important, as well as on the jewelry. You want summon damage because it is double dipping right now on Shadow Mages. You're getting double the value out of any summon tempering. Super important. We're looking for GA intelligence if you can. And then on the tempering, also super important, we want to masterwork the Skeletal Mage attacks twice. Just turns them into like crazy, so many bolts getting thrown out. It's really, really powerful. And then of course we want our Skeletal Mages dealing 200% damage off of Service and Sacrifice. Because summon damage temper is double dipping, Ring of Mendeln does not make its way into this build. I would rather just have another legendary so that we can get that extra double dipping summon damage. And it brings up an interesting dilemma of whether you want to masterwork that summon damage. I found myself settling on 2 on a GA intelligence and then 1 on summon damage. I do really like the lucky hit chance to proc vulnerable on this variant in particular, just because I'm not able to spam soul harvest, other ways to get vulnerable, so I just rely on auto attacks to proc vulnerable, and it's really, really nice. I do have a couple of wasted temperings just for this variant, the 0 button variant. Ultimate cooldown reduction doesn't help. I did want to mention you can very easily crank up the damage of this build even further if you're willing to press 1 or 2 buttons. The first button I would add is Bone Prison, just because you can cast it off of cooldown, and when you deactivate it, the game calculates it as if one of your minion dies, which further procs your Kalen's Edict, giving you a 20% multiplicative damage buff, which is pretty nice. The second button I would add is a Soul Rift. And, you know, we kind of had some throwaway points. You could take them out of the Iron Maiden. You could take them out of Decrepify. You could also take points out of Grim Harvest. And then you just dump them into this all the way to the top. Add these 2. And obviously your Bone Prison points. And that will already launch the build. And you'll only have to press 2 buttons. Like for me on my Steam Deck, I would probably put it on the triggers. For the seasonal powers, I actually got this idea from another YouTuber named Big Daddy Den. I love his content. He's almost entirely focused, from what I can tell, on like lazy Diablo builds. Definitely go sub to his channel. I'll link it down in the description. But we run Cosmic Anomaly because we don't ever activate it just by keeping it at 5 anomalies. We are always unstoppable, and to go along with the theme of the build of not pressing any buttons, it'll all be done automatically for us. I run Thunderous Particle because suppressors are a run killer at high pit tiers. If you don't have the vulnerable auto on lucky hit from the ring like I had, you definitely want Sapping Crux as a source of vulnerable damage. But we also have to mandatory deactivate damage resistant aura with the Fractured Core. And Knockdown Barriers is super useful through Potent Alloy. I like to run on this kind of fully automated build, Invigorating Helix, because it's actually a decent amount of healing and fortify, especially in groups. But like I said, if you don't have the auto vulnerable, you could run the Sapping Crux, although this is not quite as reliable as just having it on all your hits, because these little guys do have to themselves hit your target. So for a fully automated build, I definitely would recommend at least having it on the ring. If you are going to press 1 or 2 buttons, Soul Harvest, Bone Prison, those also can apply vulnerable. So the combination of those 2 and Sapping Crux will probably cover you on vulnerable and open up an extra roll on your ring. So that is also a variant to consider. For the 3 seasonal gems, you're going to be rocking Idol from Below, which just gives you a bunch of core stat, makes you unhindered, great for freedom of movement. The Jewel Guardians spawning in are great. It just helps further pit progress. Reverie Horn, which is just going to make your summons kind of enrage and do extra damage. And Scornful Light, which gives us a bunch of elemental damage, which is our primary damage source through the shadow damage. Really good multiplicative damage. For Paragon, I basically copy pasted a really, really talented, if not the most knowledgeable necromancer in the world. His name is Skull M. I'm going to link his channel and a planner with the correct Paragon board down in the description. That way we don't have to go through all this minutia. But he's awesome. Definitely sub to him as well. I did want to mention, so for a pit push variant, because Ahu quacks, we have to get targets into an unhealthy state. We're pretty weak while the target is still healthy. So I really like Gravekeeper to get through that chunk of especially like a pit boss. Doesn't really matter too much in low pit tiers, but if you want to do a pit 95, 100 plus, Gravekeeper is super useful. And that is something that Skull M uses. I think he's cleared as high as like 108, 109 on like a really sweaty locked in build. Feel free to just copy paste Skull's Paragon board. But just to help your working understanding of the build and why you need to hit 100% attack speed is the Cult Leader node. It's really important that we max out our attack speed because we get a huge damage buff from Cult Leader. The other thing that's important to understand is Flesh Eater, which when we consume 3 corpses, you get a 40% multiplicative damage buff. Super important. However, that is taken care of by our sack ring. But for the speed farm variant, we're going to change up a few things. All we'll do is swap out Gravekeeper for control. Already told you guys about the Spirit Wolves from earlier. That's going to consistently proc control, so you don't have to wait around for Blood Moon Breaches to proc Decrepify. And then obviously Dexterity is no longer useful, and we need to fully get all of the control nodes, which are intelligence. So you would just, from that Paragon board, switch over to every single intelligence node, which you guys should be able to figure out. Not too complicated. I must have an extra dexterity node somewhere on here. Oh, right there. And then that will fully max out the control glyph. That's the only thing you have to change in addition to throwing the wolves in. Then you will slam through pit speeds. Like I said, I can get 75s done in 2 to 2.5 minutes, which is so fast and so good for your XP farm, and probably the best use of this automated build. For potions, if you aren't hitting the 100% attack speed, which we get to, by the way, by simply adding our natural attack speed bonus, summon attack speed bonus, and the number of mages you have multiplied by 3. So in my case, I have 14 times 3, 42. So I have to hit at least 58 between these two, then I'm good to go, which I do actually surpass it just a bit. And then I don't have to run Elixir of Advantage or have any rolls with attack speed, which opens me up to run Elixir of Precision, which I get a multiplicative crit strike damage, which is great. We also just run kind of the generic incenses to cap our resistances, which you'll see once I pop all these. Then my armor's at 1000 and I'm capped out on my resists. For Book of the Dead, we sacrifice Reapers for the extra shadow damage. We run the fire an additional Shadow Bolt every 3 attacks. It's just so useful. Even now that they've patched the other one, I find a way better use from extensive testing from the extra bolts. And for the Golem, we sacrifice the Iron Golem to get a multiplicative crit damage buff. Last but not least, for Mercenaries, we go Subo for the pseudo map hacks on the speed farm variant, and we go Ray here for the pit push variant. On Aldkin, make sure you set it to where he's going to jump in. If you're doing the variant where you don't press any buttons on becoming injured, it's the only way to proc it. Unfortunately, Saccharine doesn't seem to apply this one. And then it's just going to be Field of Languish to get a little bit of extra damage mitigation. If you have any questions other than that, just drop them in the comments. I will get to all of them, answer your questions. Without further ado, let's get into the gameplay.